Hello, dear friends. Today we will be reading The Easter Bunny's Vacation by Jemima Neal. Jack Rabbit is the Easter Bunny. One year, he decided that he was tired and needed a break. His house was full of eggs that he had been working hard to collect for months. There were big eggs and little eggs and blue eggs and pink eggs and purple eggs. There were so many eggs that Mrs. Rabbit could hardly get in the door. Every year, there are eggs to the ceiling and eggs in the couch. Eggs in the kitchen and under the bed, she exclaimed. We count eggs and color eggs and store eggs, year after year after year after year. Sometimes I wish you were a banker or a doctor or an accountant. Jack sighed. He hated to admit it, but he had been feeling the same way lately. All of this work, and did kids really appreciate him these days? Did they even believe in him anymore? I understand, Bunny, he said. This is a lot of work for both of us. I think what we need is a vacation. Mrs. Rabbit could not believe her long ears. They had never taken a vacation before. I love it. She was overjoyed. Let's go to the beach. That is how the Easter Bunny's vacation began. Jack Rabbit booked a beachfront house for a week and cleaned the eggs out of the car so they could load their luggage. Then the two of them took off on what they hoped would be a week of rest and relaxation. Mr. Rabbit drove all night while Mrs. Rabbit slept. It's about time that I had a break, he thought. In the morning, as Mrs. Rabbit awakened, they drove over a hill and suddenly saw the ocean. Now, the Easter Bunny saw the ocean every year when he was making his deliveries. But Mrs. Rabbit was seeing it for the first time. Oh, Jack, she cried. Look, it's beautiful. Indeed, it was. Blue water waves were brushing the shoreline. There was a bright, clear sky with sunshine. He had never seen it in daylight, but was already imagining the possibilities. This is perfect, darling, he agreed. They unpacked their luggage and donned swimsuits. Then it was off to find an umbrella in the sand to lie under and soak up the rays. This is the best thing we have ever done, Mrs. Rabbit said as she settled into her beach chair. I may never want to leave. Mr. and Mrs. Rabbit spent the week swimming, body surfing, playing beach volleyball, and reading under their umbrella. At night, they would toast each other with drinks and pineapples and fall asleep in the beachfront house, listening to the ocean. The last day of their trip, the Easter Bunny wanted to talk to his wife. Bunny, I've been thinking, what if I retire and we just stay here? We can live at the beach. I don't know that anyone would notice, do you? Kids today have video games and tablets, and I don't know if they think what we do is important anymore. Mrs. Rabbit pondered this. I don't think they realize how hard we work all year, every year, to get ready for Easter. Maybe you are right. You can retire, finally, and we can live at the beach, she answered. Her eyes gleamed as she imagined days filled with sunshine and cool ocean breezes. They decided at that moment that this was how it should be. They would sell their house and move to the beach. Together, they huddled under their umbrella in the sand and held their pineapple drinks up for a toast. To us, they said in unison. Suddenly, a beach ball flew under the umbrella and landed in Mrs. Rabbit's lap. I'm sorry. A little boy stumbled toward them as he ran after it. That's all right, said Mrs. Rabbit. What's your name, child? Owen McAllister, ma'am, he answered as he picked up his ball. And I am 6 years old. Mrs. Rabbit did introductions. We are Mr. and Mrs. Rabbit. Pleasure to meet you. I bet you enjoy this speech a lot. It's okay, Owen replied. But I can't wait to go home. Mr. and Mrs. Rabbit were surprised. You can't wait to leave the beach? Asked Mr. Rabbit. Yes, sir, Owen replied. You see, it's almost Easter, and my little sister and I have to get home because the Easter Bunny is coming. Is that so? Mrs. Rabbit asked. Yes, it is, Owen said excitedly. It's our favorite time of year. The Easter Bunny brings us eggs, and we spend the whole day with our family. But aren't you with your family here? Mr. Rabbit was confused. Sure, I am, but it's not the same. The Easter Bunny comes to the house. It's very special. He looked at Mr. and Mrs. Rabbit like they were too old to understand. It's just for kids, he explained. I have to go now. Have a nice Easter. Mr. and Mrs. Rabbit wished him the same. They were very quiet after Owen left to rejoin his family. Jack, you can't retire. The children look forward to you coming. They still wait for you. Mrs. Rabbit spoke quietly. You're right, Bunny. We should head home. There is still a lot of work to do and not much time. Are you disappointed? He looked at her kindly. No way. Mrs. Rabbit smiled. We have an important job to do. Let's go. But Jack. She paused. Maybe could we make time to come to the beach every now and then? Mr. Rabbit was happy. That's the best plan I've ever heard. We will come back next year. Mr. and Mrs. Rabbit decided that they would take a vacation every single year, right before Easter. When they got home, they had renewed energy. They loaded up egg after egg after egg, and in the dark of night, Mr. Rabbit made his deliveries as he always had. This time, though, he left a couple of special golden eggs for a certain young boy named Owen McAllister and his little sister. Jemima Neal is a Midwestern author who loves timeless stories with themes of confidence, creativity, and wild imagination. www.jemimaneal.com